I did want to remind you, Rachel, to speak slowly so that people can translate on these other channels as well. So if you can, we'd be grateful. Ronnie, do you have what you need, or you're still trying to get into the Portuguese? Oh,
I'm
he's
ready.
okay.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Okay, very good.
We're ready, Kevin.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I am excited to welcome Rachel. She is a nurse from the United States, and she is a somewhat recent nurse. I mean, certainly, I think just the last couple years. Rachel, we're going to let you tell us about your experience. But again, we welcome you and thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And now Sergio will translate.
Bueno, buenas
Boa
noches.
noite, galera. Nós temos o prazer de ter a enfermeira Rachel. Ela vai contar hoje sua experiência como enfermeira nos Estados Unidos.
Hace par años se graduó recientemente. Y bueno, vamos a conversar con Rachel un poco acerca de su profesión en Estados Unidos.
Então, Rachel vai bater papo com vocês.
Okay.
Rachel, what makes you decide to become a nurse?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Okay.
That is a great question. I always found that I like to help people in some capacity. I couldn't really articulate or figure out what I wanted to do with helping people. I actually ended up starting my career in insurance and exercise science.
Mm.
And I found that I felt like I just needed to do more. And my brother-in-law is a nurse, and he actually was the one that was like, you should just become a nurse. And I was like, I guess I'll try it. I don't really like blood. I got into nursing school and I found my home. I literally I could not picture myself doing anything else.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to stop there, Rachel, because we'll do a quick translation.
Mhm.
And please go ahead. I hope you took notes, Sergio.
Yes. Okay, bueno, sí, David preguntaba.
Porque David perguntou para Rachel que foi o motivo para que ela estudara enfermagem. Então, ela falou que ela sabia ou ela gostava muito de ajudar a galera. Então, ela trabalhou com uma empresa de seguros médicos.
Y de cierta manera, pues ella empezó sus estudios en enfermería.
Então, esse foi o motivo que ela começou a estudar a carreira de enfermagem. Então, seu irmão motivou ela para estudar enfermagem.
It was a second degree program to get my BSN. So it was like an 18-month program during which he worked at a children's hospital, the hospital I work at now, and told me to become a nursing assistant. He thought I would enjoy working with children. Sergio, do you need me to stop? Tell me if I'm talking too long. Do you want me to take a break?
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's
Okay.
good.
Because I know most people think, like, at least for me, when I was in nursing school, I figured I would be a bedside med-surg nurse at an adult hospital. Once I started becoming a nursing assistant at the children's hospital, I was like, I don't know how anyone works with adults. Children are the best. So that's kind of how I landed where I am today. And I've been here for 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Bueno, Rachel nos contaba acerca
O que Rachel falou Então, ela contou como ela começou seus estudos na enfermagem.
Después tratando como de resolver, bueno, cuál sería como la mejor área.
Então, ela estava com algumas dúvidas sobre as áreas que ela tentava estudar. Então, ela gostava muito de trabalhar com as crianças.
Sergio, en los Estados Unidos, para aquellos que no conocen, existen unos programas especiales para personas que ya tienen su licenciatura, ya tienen su título
Então,
profesional.
toda vez que eu falava que nos Estados Unidos há uns programas para aquelas pessoas que ainda não são profissionais, primeiros profissionais, então, e elas têm uns cursos. E esses cursos são alguns que a Rachel tomou para começar sua preparação para tornar-se uma enfermeira nos Estados Unidos.
Tu pregrado en cualquier otra carrera, no importa cuál sea.
Very
So
good.
I
Thank
just gave a tiny bit an explanation, Rachel, on for a lot of the Latin nurses that in the United States, these are the accelerated BSN degrees for people who has finished degree. They already have a bachelor's degree on any other subject and they can become a nurse.
Mhm.
So, but
oh,
okay,
oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
So just to clarify, you were working on as a nurse assistant all through your program, all through the time that you were doing your BSN, you were working also as a CNA at the hospital at the same time, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So,
Nice.
so
Então, ela, na sua formação como enfermeira, ela trabalhou como uma enfermeira assistente e ela trabalhava com crianças no mesmo hospital que ela trabalha atualmente.
Solo como para clarificar, David, existen los CNA, los LPN, y está
Por aqui o Seattle está falando sobre as diferentes categorias que nos Estados Unidos há como enfermeiros.
hay los enfermeros y hay los, más que todos los CNA, que son los auxiliares de enfermería. Básicamente ese es el título. Certified Nurse Assistant o asistentes de enfermería, que es más o menos el equivalente a un título de auxiliar de enfermería. Okay.
So
Okay.
Rachel, I have another question for you. Can you tell us about your experience taking the NCLEX RN? So, what was as an North American nurse who studied in this country, the United States, and then now the NCLEX RN. Tell me about that. How did that go for you? Was it easy?
It was not easy. I don't think anyone would say that. My nursing program definitely helped prepare us with every class. We had to take a lot of nursing tests that were similar to the NCLEX style questions. I
Okay.
mentioned that because how I studied for the NCLEX was I pretty much just took a lot of practice tests because you figure all the knowledge, you just have to be able to apply it. But you also have to understand that they're trying to trick you and that it's not necessarily, it felt like it wasn't necessarily, you didn't have to know the specifics of everything. You needed to know how to prioritize and how to answer the question of what they were asking, like making sure you could get to the core of what the NCLEX was asking. I felt like they were trying to trick you a lot, is what I'm trying to get at. Like your test taking skills, I felt like were very important.
Okay. Let's
compared
stop
to
and
the-
let Sergio go to start with that.
Mhm.
bueno,
Que a Rê perguntou para a Rachel qual foi sua experiência com os preparativos para quando ela fez a prova do NCLEX. Então, Rachel falou que sua experiência não foi fácil, não é uma prova fácil. E ela recebeu aulas para fazer os preparativos para essa prova. Então, ela falou sobre as diferentes estratégias que ela teve que aprender para responder esse tipo de perguntas que estão incluídas na prova. Então, ela falou que não é uma prova fácil, é uma prova que tem que estudar muito, que tem que fazer muitos preparativos.
So Rachel, interesting that you said that your university, really from the beginning, where they were teaching you how to answer questions that were NCLEX style questions. Did I hear that right? That was one of the things that they do really from the beginning, is try to prepare you.
Yeah, I think they gave us a number. I think it was like 2,000 or 3,000 questions by the end of our program we had done that were comparable to the NCLEX, which is a lot when the NCLEX is only 175 or something. So yeah, lots of practice.
Okay.
Interesante la
Que
manera
Kerry falou que o interessante que é que ela recebeu pela sua universidade os preparativos para o NCLEX. E então, Rachel falou que ela recebeu treinamento de 2.000 a 3.000 perguntas que tem similitude com a prova do NCLEX.
Some time between graduating, and how long did you study before you took the NCLEX RN, once you completed your studies?
After you graduate, they have to get you an NCLEX number, which usually takes 4 to 6 weeks. So pretty much me and all of my classmates just studied for that 4 to 6 week period. Once we got the number, took the test. I definitely think the quicker the better, for many reasons. The anxiety of taking the NCLEX, the fresh knowledge that it's fresh in your brain. So yeah, I didn't wait very long.
O que Kerry perguntou para a Rachel foi quanto tempo demorou para ela tomar a prova após que ela concluiu sua carreira. Então, Rachel falou que a maioria de seus colegas estão estudando após concluir a universidade. Período de 4 a 6 semanas, elas têm esse tempo de treinamento para fazer os preparativos para o NCLEX.
American nurses, just like international nurses, submit their degree to the Board of Nursing to get permission. So when Rachel was referring to the number, she had to submit her information to the Board of Nursing to get authorization to take the NCLEX. Nobody can take the NCLEX without the blessing of the Board of Nursing first. So
Pearson View, an ATT number, right?
like ATT
Yeah,
number.
the ATT, yeah, I remember.
Entonces, los enfermeros americanos, igual que
Porque David está falando que os enfermeiros americanos e também os enfermeiros internacionais sociais devem receber uma autorização para fazer a prova do NCLEX. Então, essa autorização para marcar o NCLEX demora período de 4 a 6 semanas. Isso foi que falou Rachel.
Authorization from the Board of Nursing.
Okay, so I would like to move on and ask you some questions about interview. So now you've graduated, you have your NCLEX RN, and now it's time to get a job. So tell me, could you share some of the interview questions that they presented to you, or anything that was kind of stood out to you that maybe you were surprised that they asked you, or any advice that you would have? So Sergio, can you translate that, and then Rachel can answer the question?
O que Kerry perguntou para Rachel foi que ela conte como foi sua experiência no momento da entrevista com os hospitais para conseguir o trabalho. Então, o que Rachel vai falar é sobre as perguntas que ela foi aconselhada para responder essa entrevista para conseguir o trabalho.
Entonces la pregunta hacia Rachel fue si podría compartirnos algunas preguntas de las que ella tuvo durante algunas entrevistas y si algunas de esas preguntas quizás le sorprendieron en ese momento.
So one of the pieces that I felt was really important was they focused a lot on safety. I recall one question which I kind of thought was silly. They were like, would you ever go against policy? And policy is like our, how you would perform certain things for the hospital. And my answer was, of course not. So a lot of questions were focused on, are you going to be a safe nurse? Are you going to report when you do something wrong or you see something wrong? Kind of like scenario questions like that, just for safety, to make sure you would be practicing safely.
Então, o que falou Rachel foi que ela recebeu algumas perguntas com relacionamento com segurança do paciente. Então, ela foi perguntada se ela é uma enfermeira que seguia os protocolos que isso vai garantir a segurança do paciente. Então, ela foi também perguntada sobre alguns cenários onde ela tinha que reportar algumas coisas que não são corretas, algumas outras que são corretas. Então, para ela foi esse tipo de perguntas que recebeu na entrevista.
And Rachel, can you give us like one of the clinical scenarios that they gave you? Was it something that you felt like you easily had the knowledge to answer? To give us a little more, because they do ask clinical questions these days in interviews.
Yes, definitely. I'm trying to think of a scenario. Definitely there are, of course, like the nursing questions, like how to handle. Give me a second.
So, mientras que Rachel piensa la respuesta, la pregunta que Carrie le hacía.
Então, a pergunta que Carrie fez para Rachel, que se na entrevista ela foi perguntada sobre alguns cenários clínicos referentes à sua experiência como enfermeira.
De manera segura su carrera, que si ella se acuerda de algún escenario en particular clínico que le hayan preguntado durante su entrevista.
And when you say clinical, I'm trying to think of, I don't recall them ever going through like a patient scenario.
Okay.
Is that what you're thinking about? Because
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I remember more like generalized clinical questions.
Okay.
More of like how to, like maybe, prioritizing. You have to give blood in one room. Your other patient is having some issues breathing. And then,
okay.
Yeah, and then like someone calls for pain. What are you supposed to do, kind of thing. And I think what they look for mostly is you giving your reasonings why, but also making sure you know your resources of, if you were to feel overwhelmed, you have your charge nurse, you have your fellow nurses to come to.
That's a good example, you know, that about delegation or prioritization and asking for help, right? That's always a great thing. Good.
Então, o que ela falou foi que ela não se lembra que ela foi perguntada com esse tipo de perguntas com relacionamento com cenários clínicos. Ela não se lembra que foi perguntada com esse tipo de pergunta. Então, ela lembra que ela foi perguntada com algumas de onde ela tem que fazer priorização do paciente das atividades que ela, como enfermeira, tinha que fazer. Então, ela foi perguntar com esse tipo de perguntas.
You are muted, Carrie.
Thanks. I wondered a little bit about orientation. So you got out of school, you did the orientation, and then you were ready to go, right?
No.
No,
So,
no, okay.
my
Tell me
hospital,
about that.
yeah, you know, as a new nurse, everyone feels scared. It's totally normal. You feel like you have no idea what you're doing. My hospital has a nurse residency, which clumps all of the new nurses from all of the different areas in the hospital, and we have to take classes for the first full year of your nursing program. At the beginning, you meet like once or twice a month, and then it gets less and less. But during those classes, we learn about other departments, such as like occupational physical therapy, accounting, just to give you a general idea of everyone. And then they do go into clinical skills such as working with the IV pump, working with a feeding pump, how to start an IV on mannequins, and such like that, stuff like that.
Nice.
Harry preguntaba.
Então, Kerry perguntou sobre a orientação, que ela recebeu quando ela concluiu sua carreira.
Definitivamente, pues hay un periodo pues de orientación y como una enfermera nueva.
Então, Rachel falou que quando ela concluía a sua carreira, ela recebe um período de orientação, onde eles são ensinados ou treinados para trabalhar com a tecnologia que é utilizada nos hospitais e diferentes áreas, para que ela pratique esse conhecimento que ela obtuvo da universidade, da sua carreira da universidade.
To learn the different procedures, just to learn how to be a nurse in the hospital.
That's a great question, because as I orient new people, that's always what they ask. I would say, honestly, I felt pretty good about my skills at 6 months, but I didn't realize until a year that I finally felt like I knew what I was doing and that I felt confident in myself.
Harry le preguntaba
Kerry perguntou quanto tempo demorou Rachel para poder trabalhar como enfermeira independente no hospital. Então, Rachel falou que ela demorou mais de 6 meses, que mais ou menos um ano ela trabalhava com mais confiança sobre as atividades que foram assinadas para ela.
Excuse me, what the single most important thing, if there was one, that you did during orientation to help to help you get where you needed to go? What did you, was there one thing that you would recommend that everybody remembers or does while they're in orientation, trying to figure all of this out and learn?
Yeah, I would say everyone should ask questions and question everything. I used to say it all the time. I'm like, I'm a new nurse. Could you explain that to me? And it seems so silly, but in doing that, I got a better understanding of things. And then it also allowed me to be put in situations. I felt like because I was asking all the time, people would bring me in like, hey, come see this. I know you were curious about this last week. So just always saying yes to trying and seeing new things and asking all the questions.
Então, o que Kerry perguntou foi que se ela aconselha para vocês uma coisa que ela fez durante o processo de treinamento, orientação, Então, o que Rachel falou foi que ela todo o tempo estou perguntando, porque ela falava com seus colegas que era uma enfermeira nova e ela precisava de conhecimento na área que ela estava trabalhando. Então, ela aconselha que, que vocês perguntem tudo. Então, isso que ela fez ajudou muito para ela para poder desenvolver o seu papel como enfermeira nos Estados Unidos.
Soy un enfermero nuevo, no me da timidez de hacer preguntas para que me colaboren, para que me enseñen.
Então, o que ela falou, que ela teve medo, não estava com medo
Yeah,
no
exactly.
momento de fazer as perguntas.
As a new nurse, they expect you to ask questions, and if you're not asking questions, they're worried about you. They're like, "Why? How do you know everything?" Because no one, the first year is very hard, and I don't say that to scare anyone. I just remind you to be kind to yourself. It gets easier. It's worth it, but it's not an easy job, and what we do is so important. We touch people and their lives, so it's supposed to be hard and a little scary, honestly, and I think it's for good reason. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sí, pues Carrie decía que pues no todo el
Então,
mundo
Carrie falou
una pregunta va a estar como
que,
¿cómo así? Está
que
pero
todo
no
mundo
todo es
pode fazer a
contrario,
pergunta
todo
sobre que são uma enfermeira nova.
eres un enfermero recién graduado
Então,
vas a tener
o que Rachel falou, que
Rachel
quando
dice
ela
que
estava no processo de orientação, ela ela estava com medo. E então ela falou que não é um trabalho fácil, um trabalho difícil no primeiro ano.
Aprovechen lo que es un año de aprendizaje. Todos los enfermeros nuevos en los Estados
Então,
Unidos
nesse ano que ela teve de orientação, ela fez muitas perguntas e ela aconselha para vocês que o primeiro ano,
Okay.
trabalhando como
So,
enfermeiro
tell me a little bit
internacional,
about the
não
hours
tenha
that you
medo de
work.
fazer as
What does that
perguntas.
look like in a United States hospital? What can you share your experiences of hours and how many weekends and all of those kinds of things?
Mhm. For me, we work 3/12s. There are other variability, like other schedules you can work less, but that's full time, and that's 36 hours a week. My hospital, you have to start out rotating, which means you have to do at least 4 night shifts in a 6-week period. And
Okay.
you work 2 weekends in a 6-week period.
O Kerry perguntou para Rachel foi
work nights, correct?
Well, not anymore. I thankfully got off of that.
Off of that, but you started on the night shift where most people work. So,
Yeah.
Sergio, allow me to translate that. You don't mind. Rachel, como muchos de los enfermeros en los
então
Estados Unidos,
Rachel,
obviamente en el turno
como a maioria dos enfermeiros nos Estados Unidos, ela trabalhou tempo completo. Então, nos Estados Unidos, tempo completo, 3 dias, 12 horas, plantões de 12 horas, e ela trabalhou.
Dos turnos, un turno. En el hospital de ella, ellos trabajan
Então, no hospital onde ela trabalha,
menos,
elas trabalham
dos turnos
por menos
de fin de semana.
2
rotación
fins de
cada
semana.
Ellos cubren los fines de semana, tienen que trabajar un fin de semana, en realidad 2 fines de semana en cada rotación.
Então, elas trabalham fim de semana, descansa, de folga, o outro trabalha. Pelo menos 2 fins de semana, eles têm que trabalhar.
Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. So every 6 weeks.
Sábado, domingo.
Saturday and Sunday, every 6 weeks you do 2 in a 6-week period. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So cada 6 semanas.
Então, cada 6 semanas, eles fazem 2 plantões completos, sábado, domingo, no horário normal do trabalho.
One other question with respect to your shift. When you say rotation, you didn't rotate during that time to day shift. You stay only on night shift, correct?
No, so my floor specifically, I work day shift and night shift. Some floors make you do night shift only and then you switch to day shift.
Mhm.
But half of my hospital, we have to do both.
Okay.
And before I translate that, could you tell me the reasoning for that? Is because people like both shift or because you are short on
They
night
want
shift?
to they want to be able to fill the hole and no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so Sergio, I'm sorry, I'm going to take over the little translation on this part. En el hospital, en
No
la unidad
hospital
particular de
onde
donde Rachel,
trabalha
lo
Rachel
inusual, ellos
é
trabajan
pouco
los fines de
diferente
día y no,
da maioria dos
no es
hospitais dos
mucho
Estados Unidos.
un día en los Estados Unidos. Inclusive en otras de las unidades del hospital de ella, solamente trabajan noches o solamente trabajan días.
Então,
Ellos rotan turnos diarios.
no hospital onde Rachel trabalha, eles têm plantões rotativos.
6 semanas, 4 turnos nocturnos, los otros podía trabajar en teoría diurnos. El motivo por el cual lo hacen tiene más que ver con la
Então,
escasez de enfermeros en
ela
los
trabalhava
Estados Unidos,
da noite,
que cualquier
algumas
lugar
vezes
de Wilson,
da dia, e o motivo é
en
porque
Utah,
elas não têm
Estados Unidos,
suficiente personal
en
de enfermagem para cobrir os plantões em diferentes horários.
come to work in the United States. Uno de los motivos por los cuales hacen eso es porque obviamente tiene escasez de enfermeros y quieren tener suficiente gente que puede cubrir.
Então, o motivo porque alguns hospitais têm esses plantões porque não têm suficiente personal da enfermagem, por isso que elas trabalham alguns plantões da noite, alguns plantões de dia.
Not at all. So Rachel, are there extra shifts? People ask us all the time. If I wanted to work an extra day, would I be able to do that? Because most of the nurses work 48 hours a week in their country, right? So that's their first job. Sometimes people have another job too. So I know, yes, it's a lot, right?
It is a lot. That is oh my goodness. You will always, I don't want to say always, but especially during COVID, they were paying us what they called incentive, an extra at the peak, we got an extra $1,500 for 12 hours to work and overtime.
We'll have to have you repeat that. Luckily, it's not COVID anymore, but it will demonstrate the huge incentive that they were paying nurses because there just weren't enough. So $1,500 additional for a 12-hour shift.
Yes.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And now, are they just back to regular?
Can you give Sergio 1 second to translate?
Oh, yeah.
Bueno, Carrie,
Então, Carrie perguntava para Rachel que há muitas pessoas que não moram nos Estados Unidos e que elas trabalham em seus países mais de 48 horas na semana. E então, Rachel ficou surpreendida porque são muitas horas que os enfermeiros internacionais trabalham. Somente nos Estados Unidos eles trabalham 3 plantões de 12 horas. Então, ela falou que durante a pandemia ela trabalhava e ela recebeu um bônus extra. Então, durante a pandemia, ela recebia um bônus extra de $500 mais o pago de seu tempo extra. Então, ela recebia um bônus de $500 somente por trabalhar durante a pandemia.
Más las horas de ese turno las pagaban a tiempo y medio.
Então, ela falou que ela recebeu um bom salário.
The pandemic, the disaster is over. Do they have additional shifts, and are they paid at time and a half? If they're over 40 hours, was there any other incentive?
Yes, right now we still have, you can pick up overtime and get paid time and a half. We recently got rid of incentive and it was at $500 for 12 hours.
Mhm.
But they frequently do that where they'll take it away and then it'll come back. So we anticipate in the winter time with our peak season, they'll bring it back. So there's always opportunities for overtime, at least, at the very least.
Okay.
Então, o que quer,
Recientemente, obviamente, después de la pandemia,
perguntou que depois da pandemia, se os salários voltaram normalmente como estava antes da pandemia.
Tiempo extra, que es tiempo y medio.
Então,
Ahorita durante el verano, donde la actividad es un poquito menos
então ela falou que atualmente ela recebe por tempo extra um salário mais meio salário e meio que recebe por tempo extra.
Estamos entrando a la época, la parte tarde del otoño, comienzo del invierno, durante esos meses, cuando los hospitales nuevamente encuentran alto nivel de actividad y empiezan a traer nuevamente los incentivos
Então,
para los turnos.
quando o hospital está no começo de inverno e quando o hospital volta com esses bônus extras para o personal da enfermagem que estão laborando, que estão trabalhando
If you're a nurse in the United States, do you make a good living?
nessa etapa do ano.
Are the wages and the benefits, would you consider them to be excellent in United States hospitals?
I think for the adult hospitals, I do think they are excellent. I work at a children's hospital, so I think I think they could be a little better, but I think that's pretty common with specialties, which children's is considered a specialty. But I would say the wages are very good.
And you make enough money that you're able to have an apartment, you have a car, you have disposable income, you know, you can do things, you can eat out, you can do other things, take a vacation. The pay is enough that you can do those things.
Oh, yes, definitely. All of the things you said, 100%. And the other thing, I'm only working 36 hours a week, which would sound incredible. Like I have a decent amount of free time, which I enjoy to be able to do other things. So, yeah.
Nice.
Okay,
Então, o que quer perguntou para a Rachel porque se os enfermeiros que se os enfermeiros nos Estados Unidos têm muitos benefícios como enfermeiros, e então perguntou se trabalhando como enfermeiro nos Estados Unidos é possível que o salário possa obter alguns benefícios como departamento, carro, e então o que Rachel falou foi que ela somente trabalha 36 horas por semana, 3 plantões por semana, e ela, com o salário que ela recebe, dá para viver muito bom. Então, ela falou que ela tem a possibilidade de ter esses benefícios com dias de folga, onde ela pode curtir seus dias.
So you mentioned that it's a busy career, isn't it? What do you do to relieve stress? How do you manage stress? And you mentioned that you take some time off also by just working the 3 days. What do you do to kind of keep yourself settled?
I think that's a great question because I think a lot of nurses need to make sure that they do that. I definitely make sure it's great to have people at work that you can confide in and decompress hard days with. Outside of that, I like to be active. I play co-ed soccer and I go to the gym and like to be outside. So I think it's important to be active and also find things that you like. I'm trying to get into pottery right now. You know what I mean? But yeah, and also being able to have people that you can talk to about those really hard days is very important, and managing that stress, because it is a very stressful job that we do.
Yeah,
Mm.
thank you.
E a Rê perguntou que o que ela faz para porque enfermagem é uma carreira, é uma profissão com muito estresse. Então, Kerry perguntou para a Rachel que ela fazia para estar relaxada e para não estar estressada. Então, Rachel falou que ela faz muitas atividades. Por exemplo, ela vai para o ginásio, ela algumas vezes ela pratica futebol. O que ela aconselha para vocês, para ficar, para estar relaxado, que vocês têm que ter uma atividade que vocês curtam, curtam muito.
Terrific. So, Rachel, I want to just kind of repeat a few things that I heard you say that I thought were really important. And then I'll ask you if you've got any other things that you think you need people to know. So the first thing that I heard you say is, once you've completed your course of study, go ahead and take that test. Take that NCLEX test, because once you've finished all of the coursework, get in there, take that test. Don't wait.
Mhm.
Okay, Sergio, I'll let you translate that.
Okay. Bueno, antes de continuar,
Que a Rê falou, ela quer enfatizar sobre o que Rachel falou, que quando vocês concluam seus preparativos para o NCLEX, ela aconselha que não demorem muito tempo para fazer a prova, porque vocês têm conhecimento atualizado, recente.
They're going to ask you some questions, and that you will be, there'll be questions about prioritizing and, safety, and it sounds like quality for patients, and, what you're going to do to promote that.
okay, y adicionalmente, en cuanto a la entrevista, ¿sí?
Então,
Van a tener
quando a entrevista, ela quer enfatizar sobre as perguntas que foram feitas na entrevista, que ela foi perguntar sobre alguns cenários, como ela, como enfermeira, tem que fazer as atividades com relacionamento à segurança do paciente.
And take opportunities to see and learn.
y en cuanto al proceso de
Também, também ela vai enfatizar no período de orientação, que é muito importante, quando vocês têm nesse período, que vocês têm que perguntar, que vocês têm que aprender muito nesse primeiro ano de orientação.
I also heard you say that there's great salary and benefits in the hospital, and that you should make sure that you find ways to manage your stress, because it is a stressful job. So find ways to do self-care.
Então, também ela falou, ou quer enfatizar sobre que nos Estados Unidos tem bom salário, mas vocês têm que ter também umas atividades para ficar ou estar saudavelmente, porque é uma profissão com muito estresse.
People are, I'm sure, really excited to ask you questions. But tell me if there's anything else that you think is really important before we let them start, about,
Carrie, allow me to ask a couple of minor questions to Rachel.
Oh, sure.
Rachel, I think one of the things that we get asked all the time is about workloads. You work on a med-surgical area. Tell people a little bit about what is your typical workload. You start your day, number of patients, how many patients you see, a little bit of the turnover of the activity in the hospital. I think that's one of the number one things that international nurses like to know. Para la traducción de la pregunta le estoy pidiendo a Rachel que nos cuente.
Davi está perguntando para a Rachel que fale sobre a quantidade de pacientes que ela tem no dia normal do seu trabalho. Então, que ela conte pouco, que fale pouco sobre como é dia normal no seu trabalho.
World, you typically have 3 to 4 patients, 3 during day shift, and then you might get 4 on night shift. The turnover really is based on the floor, so that's definitely a great question to ask your interviewer. For me, I would start with 3, discharge 1, and then go back to 3 patients.
So Rachel nos dice que
Rachel falou que nos hospitais pediátricos o número total de pacientes é 3, 4 pacientes. É o mais comum número de pacientes que vocês têm que atender. E noturno, nos plantões noturnos, você tem uma quantidade de 4 pacientes, mais ou menos. Então, quando paciente deixa o hospital e ela tem 3 pacientes, um paciente deixa o hospital, ela recebe o outro para ter uma quantidade total de 3 pacientes.
Al grupo que le están haciendo la entrevista, ¿cuál es la tasa de rotación de pacientes dentro de la unidad? Rachel, that's for a standard med-surgical unit in a pediatric hospital. What about intensive care areas? What about step-down areas? Other modalities, other kind of services that you may have in the hospital?
Sure. Our ICUs can have a max of 2 patients. Our step downs are similar to our med surge. They max more at 3 patients. So they have more like 2 to 3, but primarily all of the floors are about 3 or 4. The ICUs are really the only ones that get capped at 2. If you're in the emergency department, you can have 4 patients. And the way it works is you're in a pod with another nurse with a total of 8 patients. So you both have 4, but you guys are like partners.
So, le
então, Rachel falou sobre a quantidade de pacientes que tem nas diferentes áreas do hospital. E ela falou que a maioria das áreas tem uma quantidade de 3 pacientes, cuidados críticos, uma quantidade máxima de pacientes são somente 2 pacientes. E se você está na área do pronto-socorro, você vai ter uma quantidade máxima de 4 pacientes. E se você trabalha com uma colega, 4 pacientes, ela e 4 pacientes, a colega, mas ela falou que a maioria das áreas tem máximo uma quantidade de 3 pacientes por enfermeira.
Entonces, en principio, la carga laboral pueden ser 4 pacientes por enfermera, pero es como una unidad de 8 camas donde hay 2 enfermeras atendiendo en la área de emergencia esos 8 pacientes. And Rachel, what about assisted caregivers that collaborate with you? Are you primary care, little help from CNAs? Who else is with you on the units?
Yes, we have nursing assistants, the CNAs, and they get anywhere between 8 to 10 patients. So usually we'll have like 2 to 3 on the floor. And then we have a clerk who answers our phones and the call bells. And then we also have respiratory therapists who take care of all the respiratory treatments and the ventilators, anything respiratory related they handle. And then of course, social work and the doctors, but like, yeah, on the immediate floor.
Okay, and in the pediatric hospital, do you do all your draws, all the blood draws? Are they all part of your workload, or the lab is sending phlebotomists to do the work?
That depends on the hospital. So where I work, we do our own lab draws, but we have an IV team to place IVs and to help if there's like a challenging patient. But at a place like CHOP, they have a phlebotomy team, so the nurses aren't expected to do lab draws.
Yo le preguntaba a
Então,
Rachel.
o que David perguntou para a Rachel foi que ele perguntou sobre o outro pessoal que está trabalhando com ela, por exemplo, os técnicos de enfermagem. Então, ela falou sobre seus colegas que são técnicos e que também têm suas próprias atividades. E ela falou sobre os colegas que trabalham junto com o paciente, por exemplo, os que são os terapistas em respiratórios. Então, as pessoas que fazem as terapias são uma equipe especializada.
Nos comentaba que un otro hospital grande
Então, e ela falou que o outro hospital que são pediátricos que está na área de Filadélfia, que nesse hospital que ela falou,
sacan espécimes, ellos tienen grupos
que
de...
nesse hospital os enfermeiros têm umas atividades diferentes aos outros hospitais.
In your hospital, other members who are part in the team, where are the physicians, your interaction with physicians? Maybe tell us a tiny bit about what is a charge nurse, what they do in your hospital. Tell the people a little bit about who else comes to participate in the care of the patients.
So my hospital focuses strongly on family-centered rounds, which means every day the doctors come around, and that includes the attending, the fellow, the resident, the med students, case management, and nutrition, the nurse, patient, parents, or caregivers, which is really awesome. We talk about everything. Everyone gets to address their concerns, and we decide on the plan of the day as a whole, opposed to some places where the doctors talk about it and then the opinions of the family members and the nursing aren't
always in sync.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Or, in real time, in one time a day, which is really neat and has been very helpful in patient outcomes and care.
Allow me to translate that. En el hospital
no hospital onde Rachel trabalha, elas trabalham com protocolo que oferece um serviço onde elas oferecem cuidados para a família, elas trabalham em conjunto com os médicos, enfermeiros. Então, e elas trabalham com a família que consideram que são somente um grupo. E então, elas trabalham junto com os membros da família para tomar uma decisão sobre o tratamento
de manera común. Esto es una cosa que a ella le encanta mucho en la forma como
Então,
funciona su
Rachel
hospital.
falou que ela gosta muito desta forma de trabalhar no seu hospital.
Algunos son un poquito diferentes, donde la parte de los doctores trabaja un tanto más independiente.
Então, ela falou que há algumas áreas onde os médicos trabalham independentemente e as enfermeiras independentemente, mas nesse hospital ela trabalha junto com os médicos para tomar decisões sobre o tratamento da família.
Now, if something were to happen and the doctors can come and go to reassess the patient, but that formal rounding is
Mhm.
once a day.
Okay. Estas revisiones de pacientes ocurren solamente una vez al día.
Então, essas avaliações do paciente somente acontecem uma vez por dia.
Who gets the bulk of the implementation? The nurse who gets the bulk of the implementation of what's discussed during those clinical rounds?
It's usually the resident who's taking care of that patient is leading the rounds.
Mhm.
Was that your question, or like,
Yeah, there are two parts. One is, they're leading the round in terms of the clinical, and obviously you as the nurse at the participation, obviously you get to do a lot of the things that get discussed within the round. So kind of a little bit of the clinical piece of working through those rounds.
So like say my patient, a simple example would be has impacted stool. So at rounds, they're like, all right, we're gonna go lightly. We need to drop an NG tube, start go lightly, and then see how the patient responds. They're gonna be MPO. So that's a lot, right? So that gives me the opportunity to ask any questions. Say I don't think my patient is gonna tolerate an NG tube. I'm able to address my concerns. But yes, so after they say all that and we talk about it, I then go do all the things that were discussed.
Rachel nos da un ejemplo en particular.
Rachel falou alguns exemplos.
Un paciente que tiene alguna obstrucción.
E ela falou sobre uma situação de paciente
algunos tubos para facilitarle, pero ella como enfermera tiene dudas que, por ejemplo,
então, ela como enfermeira, quando está com paciente com uma situação específica, então ela consulta com a equipe sobre as atividades que ela vai fazer com o paciente. Então, e como ela trabalha com outros colegas, ela consulta sobre qual é a melhor decisão sobre o cuidado para esse paciente.
Las sondas nasogástricas, entonces si se presentaba el escenario que había que usar una sonda, pues ver si el paciente lo toleraba o no, y lo discutían con el grupo.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Rachel, switching a tiny bit of it, and then I'll let everybody else ask questions. From a grow as a nurse perspective within the hospital, do you feel the hospital offer you career opportunities to move on, to do new things, learn new things? That's another common question people wants to know. Am I stuck in this job for the rest of my life? Do I have better opportunities? What are the other opportunities? If this is all I want to do, that's fine. But if I wanted to do something else, do the hospital offer me opportunities to do other things, grow in different directions? That will be an awesome perspective you can give people about how you feel about the opportunities that you can or cannot get in a hospital.
Absolutely. The opportunities are endless, honestly. Working in a hospital, everyone seems to be a registered nurse, case management, all the different areas. Everyone's a registered nurse. How my hospital helps, they help pay for further education, like a master's or doctorate degree. They give about $5,600 a year. they also provide a bunch of classes to keep you learning, as well as help you get continuing education for your nursing license.
Nice.
Do you want to?
Yeah, let me translate. So, yo le preguntaba a Rachel.
Davi perguntou para a Rachel sobre as oportunidades que o hospital oferece para o crescimento profissional.
Nuevas oportunidades, o si yo simplemente me quedo como enfermera el resto de la vida. Y ella dijo,
Então,
no,
Rachel falou que o hospital oferece muitas oportunidades para o crescimento profissional.
Una enfermera registrada.
Então,
O hospital les oferece a ellos $5,600
então o hospital onde ela trabalha dá para os enfermeiros registrados uma quantidade de $5,600 para que eles utilizem esse recurso para fazer mestrados ou alguns outros estudos. Algumas dessas alguns dos cursos são obrigatórios, alguns outros são opcionais, mas o hospital oferece grandes oportunidades do crescimento para o enfermeiro que trabalha no hospital.
Yes, we have clinical nurse educators and clinical nurse specialists, and you need a master's degree, and they work on each unit, helping educate, stay up to date with practices with the patient populations on the unit. It's more of like a education role, which is very interesting. Actually, one of my coworkers got her master's and is our clinical nurse specialist. So we know her, and it's great. So yeah.
Yo le preguntaba a Rachel.
Davi perguntou para a Rachel quais são os planos dela para o futuro, se ela quiser tornar-se mestrado. Então, ela falou sobre a enfermeira clínica especialista. Então, a maioria dessas enfermeiras tem uma função de ensinar para os colegas.
Dentro de la unidad como la educadora clínica en el hospital. So, what I want to highlight on this, Rachel, and it would come nicer from you than for me, is I always like to tell people that the United States offer really the largest amount of career growth for nurses. That they are available. All they need to do is just want them, nothing else. That they are endless. But I think it will sound much nicer from you than from me. I would like them to believe that it's true when I say that to them.
Well, I'd like to add something as well, because the perk of being a nurse is that you don't have to stay in one area. Once you get into a health system, like my health system has a lot of satellite. Like if you don't like inpatient, you can go outpatient, you can switch floors. There's so much opportunity within your health system. That's amazing. But speaking about them wanting you to give you all these opportunities, my hospital, we have a clinical ladder for nurses. So they not only want you, they help you advance your career and your knowledge. They make us have goals each year of what are you going to do? How are you going to learn more? So they help us in that regard as well.
So, Rachel nos cuenta también que
então, Rachel está falando sobre os hospitais que são parte do sistema, onde elas oferecem grandes quantidades de oportunidades para continuar com a preparação profissional. Então, ela falou sobre as oportunidades que os hospitais oferecem para trabalhar em diferentes áreas. Se você quer trabalhar com o paciente, você quer trabalhar com outras áreas que não têm relacionamento diretamente com o paciente.
escaleras de avanzar y la intención es que
Então, os hospitais oferecem oportunidades para desenvolvimento profissional e então elas vai ajudar para que vocês possam trabalhar nessa área que você quiser.
That have gone through the chat, so I'm going to start reading some of those, and I'm going to ask people who wants to raise their hand and we'll let them ask you questions directly. Aquellas personas que quieran
Agora, Davi está convidando para que as pessoas que têm uma pergunta, que você faça essa pergunta e elas vão respondê-la.
They wanted to know that if you ever had a problem with a coworker when you were trying to learn something and he or she didn't really did a great job, but didn't really want to explain that stuff, you know, that issue that sometimes you are eager to learn something and the other person just doesn't have the patience or something to teach you something new. Are they always helpful to guide, to help, or are there sometimes conflicts on that piece? Let me translate that question and then please answer.
Uma pessoa perguntou como que se as pessoas que estão ensinando, capacitando, se elas sempre estão com vontade de ensinar.
So I am a little spoiled because I work at a wonderful hospital. I haven't had this issue too much. I've definitely had friends who've had issues with people not being receptive to questions, but I don't think it's as common as it used to be from what I understand. I think you'll find quickly that nursing is a team sport. So everyone's is there to help each other. And that I'd like to think if someone in that moment didn't want to teach you, that maybe they were having a hard moment. Because for the most part, I found that the nurses are so helpful. And I know that there used to be the saying, like, nurses eat their young. I don't think that is as prevalent today. And I think we've been working really hard not to be like that. So hopefully it'll be uncommon for everyone, but.
So Rachel dice
Então,
que ella está
Rachel falou
en la situación personal de ella, en el hospital de ella en particular, eso pasa muy poco o muy rara vez.
Então, ela falou sobre os conflitos, os problemas que algumas vezes, como enfermeiro, como não enfermeiro, você vai ter. Ela falou que a maioria dos colegas tem muita disponibilidade para ensinar, mas ela compreende que algumas vezes há situações que não são que algumas vezes os enfermeiros que estão treinando, orientando as pessoas não têm um bom dia e ela compreende que algumas vezes vai tornar-se um pouco difícil, mas não é comum. Então ela falou que em seu hospital a maioria dos seus colegas estão com vontade de ajudar para as pessoas que são novas.
For places to work, a good question would be to ask if they have a mentor program. We have a mentor program at our hospital. A new nurse gets put with a mentor, and it's an awesome program because it allows those new nurses to have someone that they can go talk to all the time. That's kind of their go-to person. So when they're having a shift and, you know, Nurse Susan was so rude to them and you were asking a simple question, they at least have someone that they can go be like, oh my gosh, like, what the heck? Or be able to just ask the question to them. I think that's very important to have that kind of support as a new nurse.
So, Rach, so you know, the majority, I'm not saying all our hospitals that we bring nurses pretty much work under a mentor program. That's
Wonderful.
part of what we kind of demand for international nurses, that they have to provide a mentorship program for them to transition. So let me translate that, because I think that's a great comment that you made. Una de las cosas
E Rachel falou
Rachel,
que uma das coisas muito importantes é que o hospital tenha um programa com mentor. Então, ela falou que é muito importante que os hospitais todos tenham um programa de trabalho com mentor para orientação com enfermeiro que é internacional e é novo para o hospital. E então, esses programas ajudam muito para fazer a transição para o enfermeiro internacional que começa a trabalhar no hospital dos Estados Unidos.
I'm trying to be cognizant of the time and not to ask a lot of small questions, which I think we have for the most part covered.
E o que Davi falou é também que a maioria dos hospitais que não está conveniado oferecem esse programa de mentor.
Did the hospital ever say, okay, we're going to give you, you're going to start on this unit, we're going to give you mentorship on this unit, and then you can, after that, choose whatever other unit you want in the hospital. You are just free after your mentorship program to go any place you want? Is that the way the hospital works?
I think you can just move around. You just would have to apply to other units. They would have to just have positions open. There's no contracts about having to stay on a unit, at least where I work, for a certain amount of time before you move on.
Okay, don't they ask you at least to at least don't move more than every 6 months, at least stay 6 months on a unit or a year before you can jump unit?
They never said anything like that. I mean, definitely as a new nurse, I feel like it would be best not to move around so much before you get your skill set and your confidence, but yeah, no restriction.
Okay. La pregunta que
E a pergunta foi e após o processo de orientação, se um enfermeiro pode selecionar uma área, se há uma restrição para selecionar alguma área.
Yo le pregunté que si había alguna restricción de por lo menos no hacerlo con más frecuencia de cada 6 meses o cada año. Dice que en el hospital de ella en particular nunca les han exigido.
Então, o que Davi perguntou se há uma restrição, um impedimento para selecionar alguma área específica para trabalhar no hospital. E Rachel falou que no hospital onde ela trabalha não há um impedimento para selecionar alguma área em específico e não tem que cumprir com um período do tempo para poder selecionar outra área.
I can give you ranges. New nurses in pediatrics make like $32 to $35 an hour. And then in adult world, I think it's closer to 40. And then we also do differential, so you get paid extra money for night shift and weekends.
How much are your differentials?
From 7 to 11 p.m. it's 10%. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. it's 15%. And then Saturday and Sundays, the whole weekend, it's an extra 20%.
Extra 20%. Para aquellos que preguntan salarios, ya dice que
para aquelas pessoas que perguntaram sobre o salário, os hospitais pediátricos, então, para uma enfermeira recém-graduada, recebe um salário de $32, $35.
Esto no incluye obviamente los diferenciales de nocturnos o fin de semana, los diferenciales nocturnos En la parte de la tarde son aproximadamente el 10% del salario.
Então, para os outros plantões da tarde, incremento de 10%,
Y durante los fines de semana el 20%.
e os fins de semana, incremento de 20%. E esses são os salários que tem um hospital onde ela trabalha.
It's time, Jeff.
I'm going to ask you one more question then. A person has a particular key question to you, and is they are dying to jump into a procedural area. Are there easy opportunities to jump to procedural areas? No. People who may want to do, jump into an OR endoscopies, or people who are interested to jump in areas who are not, inpatient, they just want to go to more procedure opportunities, procedural areas.
Like right away, like fresh out of nursing school, going straight there?
Mm-hmm. Either that, or a person who is coming from abroad, are they easy going into procedural areas?
For the most part, yeah. I know ORs right now are in need of nurses, so if there's anyone who wants to do that. Some of the other specialties like IR, stuff like that, there's less positions, so I guess it just depends on demand, but they'll train you.
Mhm.
So no experience is required, yeah.
Wow.
Entonces, sí hay muchísimas oportunidades en las áreas de procedimientos.
Então, uma pessoa perguntou se há muita oportunidade sobre os procedimentos no hospital, se é possível que uma enfermeira tenha a oportunidade de poder fazer esses procedimentos. Então, ela falou que não é necessária a experiência, que todas as pessoas que têm a vontade de fazer esses procedimentos vão receber um treinamento.
If hospitals help with the mental well-being of their nurses. That is a hot item question these days. So if you don't mind answering that last question, I think they would love to hear it from you.
Yes, I think that they're working on it. I think it's definitely on their horizon to help with our mental health.
Mhm.
There's a lot of room for improvement. The way they help usually is like debriefing is really common for like when a patient passes. But unfortunately, I mean, they do give you some tools. I would say it still is a work in progress though.
What do they offer you benefits to get some outside
Yeah.
counseling?
They do. They give you some free therapy sessions. Like my hospital, we get the Calm app for free.
Mhm.
And they give you a lot of information to help you.
Mhm.
But I know as a nurse, some days I'm like, where's my, I don't know, pick me up in the afternoon when I'm having a really hard day, like that kind of stuff. We don't necessarily see all the time, but they're trying to help,
Mhm.
yes, with outside self-care. But I do think
Okay.
they're
La última pregunta que le hice a Rachel.
E a última pergunta que Davi fez para Rachel foi que se os hospitais ajudam com apoio psicológico para enfermeiros. Então, Rachel falou que esse hospital está no processo para poder ter programa para ajudar para a saúde mental dos enfermeiros.
Si se murió un paciente en particular, tener personas con las que se pueda discutir, y los hospitales obviamente están dando beneficios adicionales para que tengas acceso.
Então, a maioria dos hospitais estão dando alguns benefícios para receber ajuda. em saúde mental e é algo que os hospitais estão trabalhando para conseguir apoio psicológico para as pessoas.
Can I just add
Carry
one
no,
thing to
Carry
that?
no, me. I will stay here with you until 11 p.m. But I
I'll
promise
stay with the
you-
two of you. Yeah.
We can hang out.
No, I think it's good
Go
for
ahead,
everyone.
Rachel. Tell us.
Sorry, I just wanted to add the one thing, because I definitely feel like that was super negative about the self-care for nurses. I think in America, the cool thing is that nursing is always evolving and we have a say in everything. So as for self-care, things are changing because we spoke up about it, like the debriefing and getting the app and stuff. So I'm glad whoever asked it. And I want them to know that them voicing their concerns to their employer, like change happens in the nursing world. And that's why it's so awesome to be a nurse. So.
Sergio, will you translate that for people in your words?
Ok. ¿Cómo lo abordo?
Ok. En los Estados Unidos,
E nos Estados Unidos,
ellos no querían dejar una impresión negativa.
então, o que Rachel falou que ela não quer deixar uma impressão negativa sobre a forma do trabalho nos Estados Unidos.
En Estados Unidos es que ellas tienen muchísimo que decir y participación en la parte laboral y cómo funcionan las cosas. En este momento hay
Então,
un esfuerzo bastante grande donde
ela falou sobre as coisas, como são nos Estados Unidos e como agora seu hospital está trabalhando para melhorar a forma do trabalho e os benefícios que ela tem. Por isso que foi muito importante para a gente que a percepção não é negativa, é positiva, porque agora seus hospitais estão trabalhando para melhorar muito sobre os serviços, os benefícios que estão oferecendo.
We'll look for specific topics that you can bring to people, but I'm telling you from all our team, Carrie, Sergio, Debbie, everybody who is here from our team and everybody who is here, this has been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Rachel,
much
it
for
was-
having me. Yeah.
It was so nice to meet you. Thank you for sharing your experience. And if I had small children, I would hope that I was in your town because you are exactly who I would want to be my nurse.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I really appreciate it. I love being here. Please, any way I can help. I love helping new nurses get on their feet. We need them. So thank you for having me.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Sergio, for translating. Raul, thank you for Portuguese. And thank you, everybody who came and listened to this great presentation tonight. Rachel, there was 85 people that wanted to come and spend time with you today. So again, thank you for all of your wisdom and your experience.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Okay, everybody.
Good night,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot.
Obrigado.
Good night, everybody.
Boa noite, galera.